All right, so we're here in Asheville, North Carolina, and I am visiting one of the most exciting guitar companies that I have ever visited in my life, and that is Illuminati Guitars. And I'm here with James, who is the founder of Illuminati Guitars. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background, James? How did you get into this?
Yeah, so I played in a lot of bands in Chicago. I was a bike messenger there for many years, and ended up playing in some punk rock bands and like alt country stuff. I had a friend who had a Travis Bean, and I was always a Strat guy. I fell in love with the sound. Playability and the tuning stability, and the weight, not so much. So I moved to North Carolina and started working for a company called Industry 9, which produces high-end cycling components, mainly out of aluminum and carbon fiber. And I went riding with the engineer, was part of the crew, and I asked him, I'm like, you know what, since we make all these crazy, fancy, indestructible things out of aluminum, maybe you could help me build a guitar out of one. So I remember playing this Travis Bean back in the day that was just amazing, but it was just too heavy. So we got together and designed something and, machined it out, built it, played it, and it was great. I also worked at Moog Music here in Asheville, and that was amazing.
I bet.
Just a great group of people, tons of fun. My job there was to build the system modulars, the legacies that they came back out with. So just
cool.
Thousands and thousands of points of wiring, hand soldered point to point every day. There's sort of a Moog lineage to Illuminati. Cameron, who does our wiring, actually does my old job at Moog. He builds the legacy modulars as well right now. So our wiring harnesses are, as you've seen, if you have one of the guitars, take them apart. It's artful.
It's pristine.
James Taylor, our head luthier, if you remember the Moog guitars with the sustainer and all the crazy components in the back, he was one of the luthiers there and built all 3,000 of those instruments. His fretwork is impeccable. It's better than everybody else on the planet. It's great. I'm very lucky to know James and have him here.
Another thing that I couldn't help but notice yesterday when we were hanging out and I was meeting people, was you have a lot of people, you've pulled in a lot of people who have expertise in certain elements of manufacturing who are not musicians. We talked to Walton, who does a lot of the machining, and you have talked about how working with him, working with a guy who is not a musician, you guys still to this day are improving.
And it's almost helpful because I can come to him with something. He has no preconceived notion of what it should be, what we're doing. He's not a guitarist. So it's great when I come to him with something innovative. Like just a few weeks ago, our necks got even lighter and more resonant. But yeah, I can walk in with Walton and Jeremy, our senior engineer, and talk about what I would like done, and we sit down and make a few prototypes and make it happen very quickly. We're such a small company, and we have just our crew of guys, the tech guys, like guys you're talking about, the machinists and the engineers, that we can go through and make changes quickly and add that into production immediately. Yeah. So anytime we come up with a new innovation, it happens for our instruments and our OEM accounts pretty much instantly.
Yeah. Being totally transparent, this is actually the second day that I'm here, and we did something similar to this yesterday. It's just I had learned so much more about the company by the end of the day that I felt like I wanted to come back and talk about some very specific things. And one of those things it's certain things that you don't typically talk about when you are talking about guitar manufacturing. It's the big T word, the technology word. Innovation, sustainability, and musicality seem to be the three pillars of what you're trying to do here. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission statement of what you're trying to achieve here? Because it is vast. It's not just, I want to make a great guitar. there's stuff involved in your community, there's stuff globally, like you're looking at a much larger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're trying to change the world here. So yeah, with the musicality, like that had to come first. I needed something that sounded better than anything else. And we achieved that pretty quickly. And then sustainability, which is extremely important to why I started making the instruments in the first place. There's no need to use any tone woods anymore. And I know people are gonna hate hearing that, and it's gonna cause, all sorts of kerfuffle. But yeah, there are better materials that can be used to make an instrument. The reason we use aluminum and carbon fiber and other advanced materials is because that is basically the best materials that you can use to make a stringed instrument when done correctly. When you engineer the hell out of something, when you science the hell out of it and make it, light, resonant with the, perfect relief every time. It's like we mill everything down to a couple of thousandths of an inch. It's very precise. Precision is key. I'm sure you talked with James Taylor about this.
Yeah.
Precision is key when making an instrument that's going to play beautifully for a lifetime. That's one of the reasons we use the materials we do, is because it will last a lifetime with zero maintenance. Comfortable and light, and it's also just a really consistent material. So the tonal qualities are very consistent. Super mid-rangey, like you think of the old Dan Armstrong. It's just a really great sounding instrument that can punch through the mix. And lucite is a big reason for that. It's much denser than wood, but when you weight relieve it the way we do, it actually keeps all of that mid-range tone. And besides being much lighter, it's also much more resonant.
Sure.
So we've designed the cavities to be resonant along with the neck. So it's sort of one complete unit.
So in addition to lucite, reclaimed wood, and aluminum, which is all sustainable stuff, you have begun 3D printing guitar bodies and bass bodies.
We have, and these particular ones are made out of 100% recycled carbon fiber filament, which is, as you can tell, it's lightweight. It's going to be very resonant, and the stuff is tough as nails.
Right.
Like you can't break it.
And one of the things I think is very interesting, and it just kind of going back to how this is an innovative-minded company, is you guys were messing with some 3D printers, and you decided that the existing 3D printers on the market just weren't working for you. So they made their own.
Yeah, Eric Gima, our 3D tech, he has a degree in electrical engineering, and he's made solar-powered amps from carbon fiber. And yeah, it's pretty crazy the things he does. But he was unhappy with the speed and the size that he could print. So he went through and designed his own 3D printer with programming and built it out, and it's huge and it's so fast. We make our own bridges. The bridges we were using before were a bit heavier, so we decided to go with some 7075 T6 aluminum, which is just a lightweight, super stiff aluminum that takes anodizing well. And we went with our motif, the logo on the back, basically, our trademark. But what we did is we put a 3-degree bevel in the top instead of being straight, or like some bridges of the past that are, like super, they got a big dive to them, so your hand's just hitting the saddles. So we throw a 3-degree bevel on there, and it turns out after, we played with many different angles, and that's just the perfect one. So it just feels good. People comment on it.
These look like Graphtec Saddles on here?
They are Graphtec Saddles. Good eye. We've been using them since we started making our own bridges. They're just the best saddles. You get really great string definition. They're all the same volume. You break far less strings. Mm-hmm. It's just an amazing product.
We have two different styles of necks, and this one here is the aluminum neck with a carbon fiber fingerboard on it, which feels incredible. Like, I wouldn't have expected it to feel incredible, but it does. It feels incredible. It plays incredible, and it's just perfect.
I love the carbon fiber. A lot of people mistake it for ebony. They're just like, it's just a really straight grained ebony.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, that's carbon fiber. It also comes in a 12K weave, which is gorgeous and super high tech looking. That's mainly what we use. This is the unidirectional that looks more like wood. It's just a more familiar look. But yeah, people pick them up, and a lot of times if it's anodized with carbon, they don't realize this is aluminum if they've never played one before and it wasn't explained to them. They just pick it up and play, and they're like, how do you do that? And then explain, and they're like, that's aluminum?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
And the beauty of this, there's no heel on this.
Yeah, it's heelless. This is our system style.
Yeah, tell me about how you.
Yeah, the neck
make that
actually
work.
bolts in under where the 24th fret would be. We played with a few times of actually, going all the way back to the bridge, but we found that we can get just as much sustain and tone out of this just by where we bolt it in, and it's also much lighter.
So this is a straight aluminum neck.
It is. It's our hollow core neck still, so it still is engineered with.
Still nice and light.
Yeah, it balances well.
This one's heeled.
It is. It's an FMIC neck pocket, so your standard Fender style.
Yep.
It's gonna be very familiar to most people that pick it up and play it.
And this is a baritone.
It is. We just started making baritones.
The resonance of this particular baritone, you feel it in your soul. It is so amazing.
Yeah, you can you feel it in your left hand. Like you can feel that the neck is hollow and the notes are just bouncing around in there, and then they just magically shoot out.
What's amazing about this is, a lot of this stuff we're talking about the machinery of it and, the technology behind it and the robots that are making it and things like that. But we come down to a very, very human aspect of this as well. And that comes down to the fretwork. And I was able to talk to someone about just the work that goes into the hand polishing and forming of these frets. So it's a combination. It's the melding of both technology and human artistry in one guitar.
One of the aspects of these instruments is we don't have an adjustable truss rod, which really doesn't give us the option to hide sloppy fretwork in, truss rod adjustments. So we actually spend quite a bit of time on the fretwork on these. They've got to be perfect. And them being stainless steel, obviously that adds time to the process, but we feel like the interface between the instrument and the musician is one of the most important aspects of the character of an instrument. And so it's just one of our main focuses. It's one of the processes we will not skimp on, and it's got to be right every single time. And the fact that they're stainless steel adds an element of permanence that you're not going to get from major manufacturers that use materials like nickel. And as a result, for us, it's an art to the point where whoever does the fretwork signs the heel. So on every one of our instruments, just about, we started doing this somewhat recently, so some of our older instruments won't have this, but on our heels, you'll see somebody's initials, and that is the guy who did your fretwork. And yeah, that's one of the best aspects of the way these things feel is the human element going into the fretwork.
The handwork that goes into the instruments is insane. These are truly hand-built instruments. The components were machined, built by machines to be extremely precise. So when they are put together, they just play beautifully forever. But the jewel-like finish, the jewel-like quality, that's all due to the handwork from our luthiers in the back. Yeah, the technology has come a long way. Even in the last 5 years, we've had to come up with different technology to do what we've wanted to do. Just different ways to engineer the instruments to be even lighter and more resonant and just easier to play and, easier to build. That's one thing, is thinking about the manufacturing and the scalability of what we do. We have to make the instruments easy to make as well. I know you spoke with James Taylor for a while about what goes into these. Even though there's a ton of handwork, they're basically handmade after they come out of the machines. a lot of the tech that goes into these things make them much easier to build than a wooden instrument. And just the reason that is because of the precision of all the components that we use. We build with extreme precision, so you get a better outcome at the end. And a lot of that is, us thinking about ways to make it sustain longer, or to have, harmonic frequencies all the way up and down the fretboard on the bass. Like there's no dead spots, which is crazy.
It's still going. So in addition to building your own guitars, you guys are making necks for other guitar builders.
We have several OEM accounts. One of the newest ones that happened from Bass Bash in Chicago when we went there, Jake Sarek had a booth next to us. And so I got to play his instruments, and we got to know each other. And he'd been thinking about doing an aluminum neck model just to, kind of break into that market. And I'm glad we met and got to chat, because I love what he's doing. Yeah, it's going to be basically our technology that he's going to license, and we're going to build the necks for him. They're going to be, all of the new innovation that we include in our instruments, he's going to have in his. So a really lightweight, polished bass neck for his instrument that has his headstock. It's, basically his instrument. It's just, the neck is made by us. Well, going from, what I initially started in 2009 to 2019 was crawl. It was a struggle, like uphill struggle, not only to get the idea out there, to get people interested in it, especially with the sustainability aspect, but also to just change people's minds. I mean, it's a complete paradigm shift.
It is.
Like no tone woods, no wood at all. So a lot of people just don't want to hear it until they pick it up and play it, and then they're all about it every single time. We want to keep setting the goalpost as far ahead as possible, so we can maybe try to start to change the industry a bit when people take notice. They already are. As far as materials, people aren't using Brazilian rosewood anymore, and other woods that are now illegal or just so scarce that they can't use them. And they're trying to make instruments that sound better, play better, last longer without maintenance. And the way to do that is with composite and advanced materials. So yeah, I'm going to keep doing that, innovating for as long as I can. And with the future, the future, it's unwritten, but I got a pen in the back, so. Yeah.
So this is extremely exciting, and I kind of think of it as like the equivalent of like, if like Serena Williams was like, no, you take the last major for me. You can do it for me. What this is here is a Valeno guitar body that will be made here.
They will be. We are the official licensed builder of Valeno instruments from now on, and there have been a lot of people waiting for this to happen. So this is kind of big in the, not only just the aluminum aspect of it, but just hand built. Yeah, it's an iconic brand, and it's coming back. And yeah, we are just I'm beside myself that we're doing this. It's amazing.
So these are light because they're
gonna get lighter. This was one of the original ones that John Valeno had built. So we're changing them a little bit. The outside's gonna look exactly the same, but they're gonna be a bit lighter. And they've gone with our tech as well for the necks. So it's the hollow core technology and the bolt-on nut. Again, at the end of the day, it's just a tool. I just wanna make something that is, when you put it in your hands, you can just express yourself sonically, and the instrument just disappears, just kind of becomes part of you. And the way we can do that is through technology and precision.
Yeah, and there's a moment when you play these guitars where, and I experienced it when I first walked in, where you're looking at them and you're kind of like, you think you have your head wrapped around them. and then you sit down and you play them for the first time, and there's a moment, and there's a look that you guys now see in people's faces when they like you look for it, and it's this where you're playing and you go, oh, and
I love the smile that people get. Yeah.
and it is a thing. It is a thing that happens. So while there is so much incredible stuff that this company is doing on this large global scale and big, huge goals, they're also, it's easy to overlook that you are making a really, really incredible tool that will last someone their entire lives. And you use Stringjoy strings on these guitars, and one of the things that I really love about Stringjoy, and because I was a Stringjoy player before I started working with them, was I hate changing strings, and those Stringjoy strings last forever.
They do.
And so now you have a guitar or a bass that will need no repairs or bumps or adjustments. That will last forever, with strings that will last a really long time. What was he saying? These strings on here were 14 months old?
And they still sounded great. Like, I didn't realize they were old strings. They sounded great. Still played great. So yeah, Stringjoy is amazing. For a long time, we were using one of the larger companies. And then of course, the pandemic hit and they had to take care of their larger clients. So us small guys, got put on the wayside. And I remember seeing Stringjoy and hearing about them, and they're sort of local. They're just the next town over in Nashville, next state over, and heard great things about them. And I remember they had contacted me, so I looked up the email and talked to them on the phone and had them send some strings, and just immediately fell in love with them. And now, like, we just buy them in bulk. That's all we stock our instruments with.
It's a story that I've heard a few times as I've been out visiting with various guitar builders that work with Stringjoy, is that when the proverbial stuff hit the fan, what they discovered was that these larger string companies did not have their backs. And so when you're a small business and you're looking for another business to get your back, sometimes it's better to have another small business get. You can learn a lot more about Illuminati Guitars. I'll link to everything below. We got IlluminatiGuitars.com, we got Instagram, we got all kinds of stuff, and I'll link to it all down there. If you're interested in purchasing one of these guitars, if you're interested in having one built, you can do that on the website. Otherwise, you have retailers?
Yeah, you can actually hop on our website and look at the dealers section and see if there's one near you. And if there is, you can go play some of our instruments. They're all stocking dealers. Yeah. And if there's not, you can give us a call or email us through the website if you want something custom, and we can get an order rolling for you.
And one of the beautiful side effects of the technology and innovation that's going on here, if I were to place a guitar order with you today, how long would I be waiting?
180 days less. For custom, maybe a little bit longer. If it's something like one of the new Orion series we're making, 30, 60 days. It's pretty crazy what we're doing right now. I don't even understand it. It's been progressing so quickly lately, with what we're doing in the back, with the guys, how we're putting the instruments together. We're just finding new, faster ways to do it all the time. Better ways for better quality too. So yeah, it wouldn't take very long at all.
Thank you for having me here, and I feel like I learned so much. I told my wife yesterday that I felt like when I walked out of here to go back to the hotel last night, I felt like I was leaving the future and came back to the present. Because I do firmly believe that there is something going on here that is cool, and we're not done with you guys yet. We're gonna see a lot more of you in the near future, and this is just super exciting. So thank you so much for having me.
Great, thank you, Ryan. It was such a pleasure having you.